Hello, fellow viewers, and Merry Christmas, Kwanzaa, and Hanukkah to all, and whatever other obscure holiday you celebrate. How has your holiday season been so far? Mine wasn't terrific, that's for sure. All I got was a half-used gift card to Macy's, Shaq Fu on the Super Nintendo, and a stack of Uno cards. Wasn't anything I really wanted on my Christmas list, but whatever. Yeah, all you viewers can call me Ebenezer Scrooge McDuck all you want, but my point stands that my Christmas year sucked. And if I were to ever celebrate any other holiday, I'd probably get twice the garbage I already got. Bah humbug! Let me get into the little story here that will disregard basically all that I said before, except for the part about my wish list. Out of all the things that I got that piqued my interest, Shaq Fu was definitely the most peculiar to me. Conceptually, it seemed pretty corny to have a 7-foot-tall golem basketball player star in, speaking of which, a fighting game that I have zero background knowledge about. So I thought to myself, why not try and play this game and check it out to see if it has any entertainment value to it. Certainly better than shopping at Macy's not knowing how much is left on the card, but oh, little did I know what I was in for. For this game is something else indeed, and it was an experience I'll never forget. In this little video, I'll be telling you the story on how I discovered how Shaq Fu is a misunderstood masterwork that needs to be recognized by the Library of Congress, and more importantly, the valuable lesson I learned about being thankful for what you get and already have. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So, 'twas the night I received my plastic carrying case of concentrated garbage. I gave a nasty scowl in its general direction. I thought to myself, Shaq Fu? More like Shack of Poo. Oh, no, enough, that was a bad joke. So I've only heard nothing but negative things about this game, so I wondered and did some extensive research on the game right after Christmas Day. Turns out the rumors are right. The game has indeed gotten nothing but negative attention. The game was developed by Delphine Software, who has generally brought us the delight of knowing games such as Future Wars and Fade to Black, which actually sound like already existing properties. The game was published by Electronic Arts Company, along with being on many platforms such as the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, for example. The creation of the game became to be when Shaquille O'Neal took a trip to Tokyo during the 90s to practice Kung Fu with his secret master Shifu of Kung Fu Panda fame. Wait a minute, that doesn't actually sound right to me, but sources of legend of a game concept creation is always speculation. Even the interviewers are liars entirely in order to hide them secrets that lay dormant in an obscure place. This is why Shaq Diesel is never mentioned by Shaq ever. But I know about it, Shaq. I know. Due to things such as the horrendous control and absurd random storyline has led to people claiming it to be one of the worst games ever made. I thought to myself this whole time, however, that humans have notorious tendency to overreact. So I stuck with my guns and grabbed Shaq Fu, stuck it in my Super Nintendo, and took a shot at playing it. So this is definitely where the game gets wacky, and also to the point in which everyone seems to throw themselves in a lake of bleach. Shaquille O'Neal is in Tokyo for his supposed charity game. I have doubts because I think he's secretly a weeboo, and is traveling town in search of a drink. Misreading the Pepsi sign, obviously bad with his Japanese, he stumbles upon a bootleg dojo where an old man storekeeper leads him into a secret portal which actually looks more like a Lucky Star dungeon if anything else. Wait a minute. Aha! I knew it! He's a weeb! That explains why he's gone there without anyone guarding him this whole time, mind you. He wants the fact that he's a weeb to be kept a secret. Anyway, he sprints right into the dungeon thinking, Nets who? I'm trying to get some of that Itsumi. Oh wow, that was a joke. In the end, Shaq must enter the world that he got duped into traveling to, save a little kid that also probably got lured into the dungeon by Mr. Miyagi over here, and most importantly, make sure he finds his way out. Now, my viewpoint on the story at first impression was that it wasn't that entirely terrible. If it wasn't for the cringe factor that is Shaq and a real lack of character exposition present, the story would be alright. Not only that, but the story here teaches a valuable lesson in making sure you bring multiple trusted people with you, especially if you're a celebrity with a hit on your head. I wonder why. I really love the character motivation that Shaq is presented with that shows us that Shaq is a heartwarming and chill person that's more than willing to do anything for the greater good. Honestly though, upon seeing the story arc set in stone here within the first 2 minutes of my playthrough, I actually thought the game was gonna get better, so I sat back and waited. Now we get to the bread and butter of the game, that being the gameplay. First off, the graphics look pretty good for the time of the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis era. They're colorful, vibrant, and they work well as backgrounds on a computer screensaver. Back then, the game industry would forcefully encourage many development teams of games to enhance and advance the graphics as much as possible. Delphine Software took it upon it themselves to go the traditional minimalistic route and create a Mona Lisa tour de force thingy with just a few pixels. Rotoscoping, speaking of the graphical achievery, is pretty good too here. Movement seems smooth and realistic, albeit movement that Shaq isn't most likely able to perform in real life. Might I point out that there's even a blood-related cheat code you can access, but I wouldn't recommend that in an already bloody ridiculous game. There's a versus mode if you aren't savvy with the story, meaning that there's some pretty good sizable diversity with the game to be discovered. But most importantly, the biggest controversy that comes with this game, and the main reason for anyone's long PhD level thesis on a Reddit community section, is the control. The game control here is infamous for the input lag being roughly 2 frames an hour, which in Smash Ultimate terms is certainly worse than Cloud's frame 11 dash grab, and gaining recognition for being almost unplayable in a competitive standpoint. Even famous esports performers were banned from teams for having the standing opinion of thinking Shaq Fu is a viable title for esports. Geez, imagine getting kicked from a team and having your main income source ripped from your hands just for breathing and thinking. Now, when I played this game, I didn't understand where people were coming from. Maybe I wasn't playing on a CRT or something, nor did I take the video game as seriously, but I at least tried it out. I think it's all part of the hard learning curve the game has. For example, a very obscure fighting game training method that only people who live in a Kamartage or the Shaolin temples is that they play both Mortal Kombat and rotoscope based games on practice. This training technique is called the 36 chamber or rotos combatism. Fun fact, the people that worked on the Super Nintendo game Out of This World also worked on Shaq Fu, a method that most normie Dragon Ball fighters and Soul Calibur players will never be able to comprehend, and where the users play slowly behind the input lag that they somehow move faster than the speed of light. Yeah, I can't even comprehend the awesome power it holds. Maybe I might have over exaggerated, but my point being is that maybe the end lag was intentional. There are many gameplay elements that developers place in the game where public addresses it as game mistakes. I mean, just take a look at the random spawn mechanic early Final Fantasy games pioneered and made popular. Once you and your friends master the controls for a game, it will be a breeze to play and have fun. Melee at your college buddy's dorm will be collecting dust in no time. One more counter-based thought though, the control is definitely the weakest point of the game, because that makes the game not very appealing to many newbies. Nonetheless, it's pretty good gameplay. Okay, here it goes. The game is pretty good. Okay, the reason for me thinking this is a good game was all explained in the main points I presented through the video, but there's a little more I wanted to say before I give my definitive seal. Of course, we have to address the massive hate this game gets by the common gamers and media. For over 25 years, the game has been lampooned for being considered as one of the worst games ever made, which if you're comparing it to real atrocities like Mario Galaxy 2 and Mega Man 11, then it's not even that terrible. The graphics and control are a little above average, and the idea and story are the only things that truly somewhat lack here in the game. There have been times where it's gone as far as people forming a cult and website dedicated to demolishing and eradicating every copy that exists. Now, this isn't a valid solution, as it would just make the game rarer and more desirable to retro collectors, giving it more attention. The sole fact that emulation exists, and the soul of the game that will still live on within the hearts of those who actually hold the game dearly. It's like trying to take away something that someone else loves. Never heard of that before. And most of the time it's thus unethical and wrong. Now, enough of the website, more on the moral of the story here. I think it really comes down to the idea that sociologically people are influenced by multiple dyads and triads of formal groups that therefore seemingly tell people that Shaq Fu is a bad game, ignoring all of its benefits and positives right under the distant listeners and viewers' noses. I'm gonna play the role of influencer here then and say that I learned a couple things today. I learned that Shaq Fu is a pretty not bad game, Shaq Fu is a good Christmas gift, and that Shaq Fu Kung Fu kicks the ass of many other games out there, though getting a superior Sega Genesis copy is a better life decision, honestly. You viewers out there should be more thankful for what you get. This is the biggest lesson and moral of the video and story today, and you should all learn from it. Now, enough public speaking and running for governor. I've got a game and holiday to life to celebrate and some drinking. Now, I hope you all have a happy holiday and happy belated New Year. Goodbye. Food at last.